Now we'll bring in Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Thank you so much for joining us, Mayor.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're now calling for an arrest and criminal charges. Do you have an answer to the question that you posed today? Why is the man who killed George Floyd not in jail at this time?
Well, I don't. And that's largely what I've wrestled with over the last 36 hours or so is, what we witnessed on that video was hard. We witnessed a white officer have their knee on a black man for a full 5 minutes. For a full 5 minutes while he called out for help, while community said, please stop. And the notion that you or I would have been put in jail upon doing something like that, and he was not, it's just wrong. It needs to be addressed.
It's extremely rare for a mayor to call on the prosecution of one of his own police officers. What about this case compelled you to take this position? And did you have any hesitation with that?
In City Hall, there is precedent and protocol that is literally baked into the walls, that is baked into the mortar, that says that you shouldn't act quickly, that you shouldn't speak out, that you should hold off and wait a second. But here's the thing, at a certain point, we need to speak on behalf of our communities. We need to speak on behalf of Black residents who have seen this happen over and over and over again. Being Black in America, being Black in Minnesota should not be a death sentence. And so it's yes about this particular incident. It's also about the last 400 years.
There is new video of George Floyd being handcuffed before he was pinned down. From what you've seen, do you believe that his anything that he could have done prior to that arrest, whether he resisted arrest, was there anything of his own actions that could justify the actions of that officer?
Well, let's look at the circumstances in the video that we have all seen. You had a man, George Floyd, that was on the ground, that was handcuffed. As far as I could tell, was not even resisting. And he was articulating a need to be safe. And that is something that is so fundamental when someone is calling out for help. When someone is in need of that basic assistance, you help them, especially if you're a police officer where you have a responsibility and a duty to protect and serve. That duty, that responsibility was failed at the most basic human sense.
You've said that the restraint, if we can even call it that, of George Floyd was not authorized by your police department. What kind of arrest would have been appropriate in a situation like this one?
Well, I can't speak to all of the different facets of this particular arrest, and so I can't speak to what sort of arrest would have been appropriate. What I can say is what happened was wrong. The technique that was used of pressing the knee into an individual's neck is not an authorized technique. It is nothing that that officers are trained in on. It stands against everything that myself and Chief Arredondo have been pushing for in our Minneapolis Police Department for fair and compassionate treatment and procedural justice. Another big difference is in so many of these cases that we've seen throughout the nation over the last several years, we're talking about a split-second decision. We're talking about a matter of 4, 5, 10 seconds in total. This was not a split-second decision. This was 5 minutes, 300 seconds at least, where in any one of those seconds, the officer could have made a different decision. And so, in that sense, George Floyd deserves justice. The Black community deserves justice. His friends, his family deserves justice. It's the right thing for the city of Minneapolis. We need to make sure that the officer is charged. It's the right thing to do.
You have said, and said it again just tonight, that being Black should not be a death sentence. Do you have any indication at this point that this was a hate crime or that race in any way came into play?
I obviously don't know what was going through the mind of the particular officer involved. What I can say is that we know that implicit bias exists. It exists in all of us, including me. We also know that explicit bias has been very clear in so many instances involving law enforcement and through our history. And so to that extent, this is not just about the last 5 minutes, as I've said, it's about 400 years. And, you know, like, this needs to stop. And so I recognize that my statement, I recognize that the immediate termination, I recognize that the call for a charge has been a deviation from the norm. But perhaps it's been long overdue.
And how at this point do you plan to help heal the Minneapolis community? And what do you think can be done on a national level to address the pain of this moment?
There have been many people that have asked me about how to go about healing. But to get to a point of healing, we first need to stop the bleeding. We need to stop this ongoing trauma. And that begins with a charge here. Obviously, there is a lot of work left to do in the Minneapolis Police Department here and police departments around the country in a culture shift. That needs to happen. We know, and we're up to the task. But, you know, I think right now is largely about honesty. It's about acknowledging what happened, and then it's about acting, knowing what happened.
In order to start the healing, we have to first stop the bleeding. Mayor, we thank you so much for your time and being a part of the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.